FIA SLAMS Mercedes. Hamilton's pleas to FIA to tweak the regulations in order to stop Red Bull from snowballing into another dominant era of F1 seem to have hit a dead end, as the FIA president Stefano Domenicali slammed his statements in a recent interview. And what's even more interesting is that Hamilton is all alone in this plea, not even enjoying the support from one of his best friends on the grid, Toto Wolff. How is Hamilton in this situation right now, seemingly forgetting who dominated the scene up until a few years ago? In this video, we will take a look at what is the FIA's response of Hamilton's urges, and we will take a look at the main question that can be asked here. Why are, out of all the teams, Mercedes the ones complaining about one team dominating the scene? After Red Bull continued the 2023 season the same way they sped through the entirety of 2022, we as fans are definitely in for a boring season in terms of who will win the championship. Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez have won every race, and Verstappen is way ahead of the competition, prompting people to think Red Bull might make history by winning every race this year. And because of the one-sidedness, people think this will lead to massive downturn in television and fan interest, which is a very real situation. That is why Lewis Hamilton has subtly urged the FIA to adjust the existing rules, fearing that Red Bull's dominance may continue unchallenged until 2026. Out of all 10 teams, the Austrian outfit responded best to the new regulations introduced last season. This year, in 2023, they have improved upon their previous performance and are potentially on track to win every race. The British 7-time world champion remarked that the current disparity between teams is unhealthy for the sport, particularly ahead of the forthcoming 2026 engine regulations. I think it's something really negative. It's good that we are trying new things. It's important that we keep moving forward and evolving because technology has evolved. It's unfortunate because we still have the same kind of gaps between the teams. I don't know what the solution is for the future, but I think we are going to have to keep adapting these regulations. Otherwise, it could be the same as now for years until 2026. Even though Hamilton is, if you look at it from a specific point of view, right about being concerned of another one-team dominance era, it is very funny that such a thing is coming from him, considering what was happening in Formula 1 from 2014 to 2021. You might think, however, that he would have support from his fellow teammates, but this time Wolff stood against him and told FIA not to change the rules because doing so will be detrimental to the sport, and praised Red Bull about the amazing job they're doing. Formula 1 is a meritocracy, Wolff stated. The car is fast in all conditions, the driver is on the top of his game, even in the race going off at times, but not retiring is a skill, and you can see that he pushed. All credit to them, we just need to do a better job. We just need to catch up, find intelligent solutions, hope that our development slope is steeper than theirs, and eventually fight for this again. Wolff further stated that it's the team's job to catch up to Red Bull, and that FIA should not interfere here in that way. If we start putting in a balance of performance, we will ruin this sport. The best driver in the best car spending the same amount of money wins the championship, and if you break the rules in either, you should be heavily penalized, but only for that, and not for doing a good job. Hamilton's statements were taken very lightly by Christian Horner and Red Bull, where the Austrian team principal just stated that he is absolutely not pleased by anything their rivals state, and that they're only focusing on doing what they do best. As for the FIA's point of view of this whole situation, that in my opinion arose unnecessarily, Domenicali does acknowledge that a more tightly contested race would certainly make things more exciting. However, he is unequivocal in his view that it would be inappropriate for F1 or the FIA, the governing body, to intervene with mid-season regulation changes aimed at curtailing Red Bull's success. Speaking to the F1 Beyond the Grid podcast and asked if he had considered stepping in, Domenicali said, "I think it is not fair to say that. It's not correct because we cannot be seen as part of manipulation. That is not correct, and this is not fair. I am not imagining at all this kind of approach. Rather than trying to engineer rule changes to make things more exciting, Domenicali thinks F1 is actually better off keeping things exactly as they are, because that will better help Red Bull's rivals close the gap. I think that's the right approach now, also because the rules have been changed not many years ago," he said. Therefore, this will happen for sure because F1 has always been a sport where there has been cycles, where teams were very dominant and then some others came into the equation. So I would say our objective should be, if you take this strategic approach, approach to make sure that these cycles in the future will be shorter. If the FIA wanted to, of course you could stop Red Bull's dominance. The issue isn't that Red Bull are too good, it's very clear that they are. It's just that the regulations suit them perfectly, and they have the most skill to make the fastest car because of the engineers who already worked on the design back 30-40 years ago. And that will always be a double-edged sword. People complain that Mercedes were dominant because they had a so-called locked-in advantage for 6 years. Thing is, anyone could catch up to them, as the budget was unlimited, while today you can't. You have to basically beat Red Bull at their own game. But it would still be unfair if they did slow Red Bull down, which is maybe, but that's the most they could do, as they did to Mercedes when they were dominant and Ferrari before them. Mercedes' winning rate from 2014 to 2018 seasons, for example, was astounding 74%, the highest and longest rate in F1 history, and we never saw anyone complaining during that time. For reference, Ferrari's rate from 2000 to 2004 was 51%, and the FIA did try to slow them down very successfully in 2005 too. They even changed the point structure so wins weren't as valuable a difference to placings. I don't think that the FIA changing the rules is what's going to happen, because I don't really think that's what people want to see happen. What they want to see happen is the other teams getting a better understanding of how to improve their own cars and push forward to eventually catch up to Red Bull. FIA is now a stranger to this as well, because in 2014 Mercedes was far ahead of everyone else, demonstrating superior mastery of the regulations, and others were caught off guard. Back then, Christian Horner continually voiced that the dominance was detrimental to Formula One and appealed for a change in rules to enable others to catch up. His prediction held true, as it took Red Bull quite a while to match up, and there were also similar sentiments when Schumacher was dominating in the mid-2000s, with critics saying he was ruining Formula One, and rule changes were demanded. When the regulations did change, Ferrari felt it was a move designed to curb their success. There were issues around the tires too, but I do believe this is a cycle. The team leading often becomes the target of calls to change the rules to prevent them from winning everything because they're too far ahead. The concerning issue would be if Red Bull's dominance stretched until 2026, with Max being incredibly dominant. But if you're a Mercedes fan, you'd remember the years 2014, 15 and 16 when they were unchallenged leaders. They never complained then, but the rest of the field did. It's like playing whack-a-mole after a while. You solve one problem and you create 3 or 4 more in the process. So I don't envision mid-season rule changes happening. By 2021, we had stable regulations for a few years, which led to closely contested races. But we had a rule change immediately after, which you wonder how it would have played out if we had a few more years of stable regulations, with Max and Lewis neck and neck. Mercedes are on the rise. Their W14 upgrades are proving to be exceptionally good, to the point of them slowly becoming the second-best team on the grid, in front of Ferrari and Aston Martin. It would be great if they could focus on that instead of urging the FIA for a rule change. Red Bull's dominance will come to an end eventually, and it's better to have a great car for when that moment comes to be able to get back on the top. During the Canada Grand Prix this weekend, we will see if Mercedes really have what it takes to even begin catching up to the Austrian team, or the Barcelona race was just a fluke. Let us know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Do you think FIA should change the rules to nerf Red Bull? Thank you for watching Racing Zone, and we will see you in the next one.